As newly minted empty nesters, me and Anna have just returned from our first ever adults-only holiday, which also included our first ever foam party, lots of relaxing by the pool without kids to worry about, and a not-so-relaxing boat trip where Anna assures me she saw dolphins and whales, but all I saw was the inside of a sick bag. We booked this trip the day we knew Andy's moving out date. I figured Anna had earned a holiday after 18 years of pretty intense parenting, and this was her first ever experience of an all-inclusive holiday and our first ever beach holiday as a couple. We opted for 10 days in Tenerife at the H10 Gran Tinerfe hotel in Costa Adeje, 4-star hotel that TripAdvisor rated as the best beachfront all-inclusive adults-only hotel on the island. We flew on a 6 a.m. flight, something I wouldn't be keen on doing again because a super early alarm combined with 4.5 hours next to each other on a plane and another 90 minutes transferring to our hotel on a coach didn't make for the most relaxing first day of our dream holiday. We eventually arrived at the hotel roughly 10 hours after our 3 a.m. alarms at around 1 p.m. and we were luckily able to check straight into our beachfront superior room, which certainly gave us a wow moment when the balcony curtains were opened for the first time and we realised just how close to the beach we were. We picked this hotel specifically because we wanted to be close to the beach, but we were so close I could have leaned over the side of our balcony and knocked the ice cream man's hat off, which was awesome, but came with its own problems that ultimately led to us changing rooms the next morning. We unpacked and settled in, but decided we'd feel a lot more human getting a proper meal inside of us. We were running on empty at this point with only some airport snacks keeping us going, so we headed to the main buffet restaurant at the hotel that we were surprised to see was still serving lunch at gone 2 p.m, and it certainly took us a few days to get used to the hotel meal times. We're usually pretty early eaters, having lunch around 12 and dinner between 5 and 6, but the hotel restaurant didn't even open for lunch until 12:45, staying open until 3 p.m, and then opening up again for dinner from 6:30 till 10 p.m. We eventually settled into a later eating routine, definitely helped by a few lie-ins and big breakfasts, and it's worth noting if you plan on visiting this hotel yourself that you have to book your dinner slot in advance each day, so a little forward planning is needed, although you can book the whole trip in advance if you want and then change the times each day to suit your plans. The food at the hotel was always really good, loads of lovely fresh snacks and seafood and different themed menus every day. We had planned to have a nap once we'd had our lunch to make up for our early start, but that's when we discovered the big downside to our lovely seafront room. The door leading from the hotel to the beach shared our wall and bangs constantly all day and into the evening. It was so loud in our room that we both had to sleep with noise-cancelling headphones on and the balcony doors closed, which wasn't ideal in the heat with the air conditioning struggling to keep up with such a large room. We were saved to an extent by the ceiling fan, but all things considered, that first sleep was a pretty miserable one and we weren't feeling particularly positive about the rest of our holiday at this point. Despite our natural British reluctance to complain, we forced ourselves to ask about a room change at reception, and I think it's probably a recurring issue with that room because they didn't seem surprised when we asked to change at all. They didn't have any rooms empty for the first night, but swapped us over without issue the next morning, moving all of our luggage for us while we hung out next to the pool and swapping the details over on our room key wristbands. Easy peasy. Once we were settled into our new room, we decided it was time to head down to the beach for the first time, and despite how annoying that door was when we were trying to sleep next to it, it was awesome for the rest of the trip with us being 8 floors away and not able to hear it. Being able to walk out of the hotel and be about 3 steps from the beach was a major plus for us, and one of the key reasons why we chose this hotel in the first place. We were a little surprised at how hot the sand was, considering we were visiting in early May, but luckily the beach was never mega busy, so we could always find a spot at the edge of the cooler, wet sand to leave our flip-flops and bag on while we went into the sea. There was definitely a knack to the beach that took us a few days to figure out. The first time I went in the sea, it got very deep very quickly, and the soft sand became hard, uneven rocks just a couple of meters away from the beach, and we didn't go much beyond paddling up to our ankles on that first trip. When I tried to go deeper, I just ended up slipping on the rocky floor and falling over, which happened more times than it probably needed to for me to learn it was a bad idea. We did eventually figure out after a few days and watching lots of other people on the beach that the trick was to go to the left-hand side of the beach where there was no rocky bottom and it was just soft sand all the way out until it was too deep to touch the bottom anyway, which still happened pretty quickly. We weren't more than about 15 meters from the beach when even I couldn't touch the bottom, and I'm 6'2". But swimming in the sea was awesome. The water's so clean. It was a perfect temperature for swimming in while we were there, and we ended up in the sea most afternoons in the second half of our trip, despite having 3 pools at our hotel. There's just something cool about swimming in the sea, and I even got to do it off the back of the boat when we went on our ill-fated dolphin watching boat tour, which despite despite the rest of that trip being a disaster, was a real highlight for me. As is usual on an all-inclusive holiday, there was plenty of entertainment around the various bars every evening, but we quickly learned we were maybe a little too young to fully appreciate it. We went to a music quiz on the second night where you had to name a song from listening to a little clip of it, and not one of the songs in the quiz was released in my lifetime, and I'm 40 years old. The evening entertainment in particular seemed to be really geared towards older guests, and although during the daytime it felt like there was quite a good mix of age groups from people in their mid-20s upwards, the couple of times we went to the evening entertainment there was definitely a high percentage of grey-haired folks around us. This didn't bother us too much though, because most nights there was live music from the Sunset Bar that our balcony overlooked, so we could sit on the balcony and enjoy that. But more often than not, we'd head off on an adventure after dinner and explore the local shops and beaches within walking distance of the hotel. It was only in the last 3 or 4 days of our holiday that we realised just how close we were to the main Playa de las Americas beach, which, if you're happy to ignore constantly being offered devil's lettuce or hair braids, is a really cool, lively place to explore once the sun starts to go down and the temperature drops. They've got a 24-hour McDonald's, plus all the usual home comforts like Subway, KFC, Burger King, and a Foot Locker that actually had a pair of Nike Panda Dunks in stock that were just one size too small for me. More importantly, there was also an awesome bar with a load of giraffe statues that I'd been hoping to find since we drove past it on our transfer bus at the start of the holiday, and loads of lovely little spots to get photos and time lapses of the awesome sunsets. Having lived all of my life in the east of England, sunsets are a major novelty to me, and these were some pretty good ones. It was also Anna's birthday while we were away, and this was another area where the Gran Tinerfe Hotel really shined with going the extra mile to make the holiday feel special. Just before we headed down for dinner on her birthday, we got a knock on our door with a bottle of Cava in an ice bucket with 2 glasses, a birthday card, and a birthday cake, complete with candle. I didn't arrange any of it because I'm a monster and just didn't think to, but obviously the hotel knew her birthday from our passport and she was really pleased with the surprise. Neither of us drink, so the Cava wasn't much use to us, but the cake was nice, and Anna found a young couple enjoying the sunset to re-gift it to, so hopefully we helped make their night too. The other awesome thing that happened on Anna's birthday was the foam party. Neither of us had ever been to one before. We were both too busy having kids when we were younger, and other people our age were hanging around in nightclubs, so we didn't really know what to expect, but it was awesome. Probably the favourite thing that I did on the entire holiday. It was in the biggest of the 3 pools, it went on for over an hour, and it was just a load of people being silly and playing in the foam, and there was a lot of foam. For the drinkers who were there, and I think me and Anna were probably the only people there not drinking, there was also plenty more Cava flowing, getting sprayed into the pool and poured into the mouths of anyone who got close enough, and at one point a bottle of tequila was getting passed around. I think a few people ended up sleeping through lunch that day. I didn't think I was signing up to watch people in their 60s have tequila poured into their mouths in a foam-filled swimming pool before 1 p.m. when I booked this holiday, but it was certainly fun to be part of, and we got to do it again the day before we came home too, and it was just as much fun the second time around. I'm a foam party guy now. About halfway through the trip, Anna started to run out of clean t-shirts. This is why she needs a packing list. So we decided to go and find a shopping centre. This is before we'd discovered the Foot Locker and all the other shops at Playa de las Americas. So we headed to Google Maps, and that suggested our best option was to head into Costa Adeje. And I'm not sure I agree. We walked for about 15 minutes, most of it uphill during the hottest part of the day. And when we actually arrived at the shopping centre, it was just full of the same kind of touristy gift shops that were much closer to the hotel, and they just weren't much help to her. We later discovered we'd have been better off heading the opposite way down the beach, where she did buy some bits a few days later in an Adidas shop and a place that sold giraffe t-shirts. And there's also a big shopping centre next door to the nearby Siam Park that we never actually ended up going to because of their rules around glasses. Basically, you're not allowed them. So we didn't notice that until later either. You live and learn, and it was still a nice walk. We pretty much settled into a daily routine of getting up, having breakfast around 9, and then Anna rushing off to claim her favourite bed in the shade next to the heated pool with her Nintendo Switch. I'd head back up to our room and collect the rest of our stuff together before joining her to lie in the shade reading on my Kindle until I forced myself up to do some exercise around 11 a.m. each morning, swimming lengths for half an hour while everyone else sat next to the pool drinking cocktails and eating ice cream. The feeling of smugness definitely kept me motivated to just keep doing that every single day. After my swim, I'd dry off in the sun before heading for lunch around 1 p.m, and then in the afternoon we'd go to the beach or occasionally venture on shopping trips. or boat trips. We'd usually be showered and ready for dinner by 7 p.m, then off out on our evening walk around 8:30, and on the balcony enjoying the music from the bar below by 10 p.m, getting ready to settle into bed and do it all again the next day. It was the greatest daily routine I've ever been a part of. I didn't think I was an all-inclusive package holiday kind of person until this trip, and it's been a long time since I've actively done nothing, and it turns out this relaxing thing might have something to it. It's highly recommended. And then there was the boat trip. The boat trip. This was one of the main reasons we wanted to go to Tenerife in the first place. Anna wanted to see dolphins in the wild. In fact, within half an hour of booking the holiday back in January, we'd also booked our boat trip excursion, and Anna in particular was really excited and looking forward to it. I've always struggled with travel sickness, and as a kid, once threw up in the soft play area on the ferry to France, but I've also been on plenty of boat trips with no problems in recent years, most of them featured on this channel. Amsterdam, London, and Disneyland all spring to mind, so I assumed I'd be fine, as I'd been fine on those, but I did take my travel sickness medication just in case, but I genuinely expected to be fine. I was not fine. There's not much footage of this excursion because I spent the entire 4-hour trip with my head in a sick bag. I didn't actually throw up at any point, but I felt awful the entire time. I couldn't move from my little seat, I couldn't eat any of the included food or the free soft drinks we'd paid for, and I didn't even see any whales or dolphins. Anna did manage to film some while I was suffering, and she was really happy and excited that she'd done what she came to do, but I've still never seen a dolphin or a whale in the wild, and after this trip, I assume I never will. The only bit of the trip where I didn't feel hideous was when the boat stopped for anyone who wanted to jump off the back for a swim. Normally, I would be far too chicken to jump into the sea where it's too deep for me to touch the bottom, but there weren't many things I wouldn't have done to get off that boat, and it was a pretty cool experience just swimming out in the sea. But the moment I got back on the boat and it started moving again, I was back huddled up with my sick bag for 3 more hours. Ironically, about 4 hours into the trip, after she'd seen the dolphins and the adrenaline had worn off on the way back to port, Anna actually did throw up next to me, and then she immediately felt fine again. But I was ruined for the rest of the day. The whole experience just completely wiped me out, and it'll be a long time before I go near a boat again. But even that wasn't enough to spoil this holiday. I didn't really know what to expect going in. I hadn't been on a package holiday in over 15 years and didn't think I was the sitting next to the pool relaxing type, but how wrong I was. I loved this holiday, loved the hotel, loved Tenerife. It was all brilliant, and our main challenge now is making sure we don't just book the same hotel again for next year, so we have something new to make a video about. But it was so good, it's really tempting to just go back anyway. This video is part of a playlist on our trip to Tenerife, so if you want to see more of what we got up to, make sure you click that link down below. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll see you all again on our next adventure very soon.